This is Yair Davidiy speaking to you from the land of Israel. I represent Brit-Am Hebrew Awareness. We search the whereabouts of lost and tribes. We have found the lost and tribes amongst Western nations. Lost and tribes are the bulk of the Israelite nation. In ancient times, there were 12 tribes of Israel. These 12 tribes split apart. They separated into two separate entities. The northern entity of 10 tribes was conquered by the Assyrians, taken into exile, taken away, and in their places of exile they lost consciousness of their awareness and they moved from one area to another. But on the whole, they stayed together as coherent entities, cohesive bodies. Even though they adopted the ways of the Gentiles around them, the religion, the language, the customs, somehow or other they remained homogeneous. They remained who they were. And they still are as they were to some degree, and they are considered to be Israelites. They are the lost 10 tribes of Israel. They are spoken of in the Bible. And they are separated from Judah. They are a separate nation from the Jewish people. The Jews and the 10 tribes are two separate peoples, two separate groups. Jews have the task of keeping the law, of developing more, whereas the lost 10 tribes had to lose awareness, lose consciousness of their ancestry, to become like the Gentiles, to go down to the level of the Gentiles, and then to evolve upwards and bring the rest of the nations of the world with them, which they have done to a certain degree. And in the end times, the two halves, Judah, that is the Jewish people, and the 10 tribes will come together and reunite. Meanwhile, they're different, they're separate peoples, and our task, as we understand it at present, is to develop awareness of who the lost 10 tribes are. And we find the lost 10 tribes amongst Western nations, amongst the peoples of Finland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Switzerland, also the British Isles, Ireland, the Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England, and the offshoots of the English in South Africa, in Australia, in New Zealand, and in North America, and Canada, and the USA, and in other areas. And these peoples are the lost 10 tribes, and they do not know who they are, but it is possible to prove it. It is possible to bring biblical evidence showing who they are, and also evidence from rabbinical sources, from comments of the rabbis to the Torah, and also comments, rabbinical theology, one could say, aspects of rabbinical thinking, as well as midrashim, legends, and rabbinical writings. In addition to this, we also use secular sources, ancient Greek and Roman writings, historical sources, historical writings, legends, linguistics, anything which can bring proof, which can help us prove this. We refer to it, and we have been able to assemble a body of holistic evidence which comes together, which complement, in which one part complements the other, one part supplements the other, and everything helps prove the other part. And this is what we have. We have a body of evidence proving who the lost 10 tribes are. And amongst where these peoples where we've won the lost 10 tribes, we're still to some degree able to discern which particular tribe is dominant in certain areas. It so happened that in some regions there were several tribes who intermixed with each other, and one or other of them became dominant amongst the different peoples, but there were always groups from one group or the other intermixed, intermerged with the other one. So that sometimes our identifications are not certain. They are in the region, they're in the general region. They are correct as far as we can say lost in tribes were in such and such an area, and then we're together with other tribes, so which is which amongst those who are close together is not always exactly clear to us, but on the whole it has been. On the whole it has been, and our researchers and our conclusions have proven themselves over the years. So one of the points is concerning the identification of Naphtali and of Dan, and of Asher, and these tribes were in the north, and they were in the same regions, and groups to one were intermixed with the other. Nevertheless, on the whole, one or other of the Israelite tribes dominated in different regions. Norway, before Norway, to have included groups from Dan, groups possibly from Gad, groups from Asher, but on the whole, Norway was dominated by the tribe of Naphtali. We have chosen this, and different proofs prove it. One of the proofs concerns the Naphtali hands. The Naphtali hands were also known as the white hands. No, actually, that was their name, Naphtali, so known as the Naphtali hands, called the white hands because, as Procopius, a Greek Byzantine historian, noted, the white, they were fair. And unlike the regular Huns, apparently they were federated with the Huns. That is one explanation for their name associated with the Huns. Another explanation could be that the son of Naphtali, one of the major tribal clans within Naphtali, was known as Guni. Guni was another name for the Huns. The Huns were known as Huni. And in the Eastern Europe and in the Caucasus in that region, and also even in Hungary, the hey sound and the G sound intermix with each other. Muhammad is called Magamat. And the Huns are known as Huni, or could also be referred to as Guni, and this was the name of a son of Naphtali. And maybe this might be part of the explanation as to why the Naphtali Huns were also known as Huns. Also, the Huns conquered Scandinavia at one stage, and the incursion of Naphtalites from these people known as Naphtali into Scandinavia occurred about the same time as the Huns conquered Scandinavia, and apparently they were part of the waves of conquerors. That is how they came into the land. There were already people living there. There were people living there before them, and they intermerged with them. Also, the pressure or the demographic weight of these new incomers into the land apparently pushed those who dwelt on the coasts outwards, and so we had the 700 CE. We had the invasions of the Vikings. There is people from Norway and from Denmark moving out, possibly because of the newcomers coming in and pushing them in that direction, and they went out and then they conquered and they settled in different places, and they settled in Normandy and France, they settled in Ireland, and they settled in northern England and Scotland. And that is how one of the explanations for the Viking invasions of history. Other peoples coming into Scandinavia around about the same time. One of these peoples known as the Norway. The Norway came from Scythia, and according to tradition they too were descended from those tribes of Israel, and they moved into Scandinavia. Norway is derived possibly from the name Na'a in Hebrew, meaning youth, and Norway was associated with the youth, and Norway, the Norwegians were always associated with youthfulness or treated as youths by their neighbours, by the Danes and the Swedes, and also by their own rulers. They had this youthful aspect about them, for better or for worse. Official Yair points out that he's often listed at the end. Naphtali, when in the list of the tribes at different stages, he definitely comes at the end of them all. The census in the wilderness in Numbers chapter 1, Naphtali is listed at the end. The arrangement of the tribes around the tabernacle, Naphtali is listed at the end. The order of marching forward in the wilderness, Naphtali is listed at the end. So Naphtali, there's a youthful aspect to him. And there's more of this, we shall see. There is more of this. Also, Naphtali had the alacrity, the speed, and the charm of a youth. In Norway, fishing has always been important. After some time, about the same time as the Naphtali Huns were moving into Scandinavia, about that time there was a change in climate. The migratory paths of fish changed, and so the herring and so on, and so off the Norwegian coast there was a great deal of fishing going on available, and the Norwegians would settle on the coast, and they would combine farming with fishing, small-scale farming with small-scale fishing, and so many Norwegians were experienced fishermen, and this went on for hundreds of years until about 1900. So they began to do it full scale, to bring in closed ships and to go far and to sail to far regions to continue the fishing enterprises. The fishing was important for the people of Norway. Fishing had also been important for the tribe of Naphtali in the land of Israel. The territory of Naphtali in the land of Israel adjoins the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee in the past was much larger than it is now, but even now it's quite substantial. It's quite a substantial body of water. It contains a good portion of Israel's water reserves, and there's fishing there. People fish there, and in the past the fishing was much more plentiful than it is now. And the tribe of Naphtali was, when they were in the land of Israel before they were exiled, they were settled along the banks of the Sea of Galilee, and they also fished. They're also known for fishing, and so they continue this in Norway. Also, the name Naphtali is uses Hebrew letters. In Hebrew letters, the first portion is Naphtali, and the same, and Naphtali, it's the same word, it's the same letters in Hebrew. Neft in Hebrew means petroleum, and off the coast of Norway there is petroleum. There are reserves of petrol, reserves of oil. And Norway produces more oil than any other country outside of the Middle East. And the oil reserves of Norway off its coast are very important to the Norwegian economy. Petroleum industry accounts for about a quarter of the gross domestic product, GDP of Norway. On a per capita basis, Norway is the world's largest producer of oil and natural gas outside of the Middle East. So NeFT is pertinent to Norway. Now, Naphtali was aptly named. Naphtali suits Norway. Norway is suited to Naphtali. And the identifications are there, and the identifications coincide with historical evidence. Now, we see that names are important. Names do sometimes or quite often signify something about the character and the destiny of a people and the individuals. Naphtali, as we said, was known for his alacrity, his speed, his quickness. He was like a youthful man. We see this in Midrashim, and also it's indicated by the Bible. Genesis 49:21 says, Naphtali is a doe let loose, he utters beautiful words. Naphtali is a doe let loose, he utters beautiful words. A doe is a female deer. It's also known as a hind. And Naphtali was compared to a female deer. And the commentators say, why was Naphtali compared to a female deer, not a male deer? Because the female deer is faster than the male one. And Naphtali was fast and quick. And he was fleet of foot and fleet of action. But there are other implications to this comparison. Also, it says Naphtali is a deer let loose, a freed doe. He utters beautiful words, and they're beautiful words in Hebrew, Imre Shefa, words of Shefa, translated as beautiful, but it can also, the same word Shefa, can translate as beautiful, can also mean progression, progress, improvement. And in Hebrew, when you have several meanings to the one word, it happens that all of the implications are applicable. It's not just one in place of another, one at the expense of another. When you have several implications of one word, it can be that all of the implications apply. And it says that, therefore, Naphtali uses beautiful words, Imre Shefa, words of progress, words of improvement. And this suits Norway. This is pertinent to Norway. Norway maintains the Nordic welfare model. We find in other Scandinavian countries, in Finland to some degree, in Sweden, in Denmark, and in Norway. They have this universal healthcare and egalitarian values and looking after everyone, and everyone voluntarily doing what they have to do, and it works for them. In the case of Norway, we find that Norway is the fourth highest per capita income in the world, according to the World Bank and the International Monetary Foundation lists. Norway has had the highest Human Development Index rank in the world since 2009, and also before then on occasion. It also has the highest inequality adjusted ranking from 2018. In other words, the relatively gap between the haves and the have-not in Norway is less than anywhere else in the world, or close to it. Norway ranked first on the World Happiness Report for 2017, and currently ranks first in the OECD Better Life Index, the Index of Public Integrity, the Freedom Index, and the Democracy Index. In other words, Norway is a progressive country. These are the Imre Shepherd, the words of progress of improvement that Norway was noted for.